Car mods that only real car builds have, part 3. Now, this part only consists of one extremely simple mod, but the mod is so important that I can tell literally just from this whether the car is built by a poser or by somebody that's actually knowledgeable and knows what they're doing and drives the car properly, even if it's literally the only thing done to the car. Now, the mod is aligning your car to have more camber in the front than you have in the rear. People will literally build out an entire car and do everything, coilovers, sway bars, but not do this, and then their car might just actually be slower than it was stock. Now, the optimal alignment is obviously going to change from car to car based on suspension geometry, stiffness, tire compound, and whatnot. But when I roll down the road and I see a Miata, even if it's like bone stock with like -3 to 4 degrees of camber in the front and -2 to 3 in the rear, I know that this guy drives and he knows what he's doing. That's literally all it takes. Now, the reason that your stock car, even if it is a supercar, has more camber in the rear than it has in the front is because this is for safety reasons, because people on the road are bad at driving and having more camber in the rear prevents you from oversteering, but also makes the handling of your car bad. Now, there are a few exceptions of this, and I promise it's not you, but it's cars that have like an extremely stiff rear end. And the other exception being cars that have differing front to rear suspension geometry types, where the front will dynamically camber under load more than the rear. One example was the really old BTCC front wheel drive race cars that had like extremely stiff rear suspension. One example was like the NA Miata. There was a really stiff rear sway bar that likes to be paired with more rear camber. These are not you, these are race cars. Now let's talk about what aren't exceptions, because a lot of you guys think there's more exceptions than there actually are. Front wheel drive cars in general, no, you still want more front camber for the most part. Most front wheel drive cars are still running more front camber, even like the fastest race cars. Rear engine cars, yes, rear engine cars still want more front camber. But I've usually seen the rear engine cars have a much closer ratio of camber, like not so much more front camber than they have in the rear. But yeah, so this is a thing. This is what real car people see when they look at your car. This is really important to know when you lower your car on coilovers or lowering springs, because it's often the case that your rear camber kicks out even more than the front, and then your like rear to front camber ratio was kicked off even worse than it was stock. So it's important when you lower your car on coilovers or lowering springs that you make sure you get your alignment in check, especially if you're building a car with like race car parts and you want it to be fast, then give it a proper alignment to make it fast. Don't just keep it with like 3 more degrees of camber in the rear. That's just making you slow. And there's a good chance that when you lower it by a lot, you're going to need some extra adjustable control arms in order to get that alignment the way you want it. Now, by the way, this applies to literally every kind of racing except maybe, I don't know, drag racing. But drifting, you want more camber up front. Track racing, you want more camber. Rally, I can't think of any reason you wouldn't want more camber up front. So I hope some of you guys that are new to the car world learned something today. This is something that I definitely wish I knew when I started modifying my car, because I was one of those guys. I lowered my car like 3 inches and I had like -3 degrees of camber in the rear and like 0.5 in the front. That was really bad and I didn't even know that. And I was racing like that and wondering why I was so slow.